In our headlines on this Wednesday afternoon, June 12th, here on the Korean Peninsula. Pres.Yoon is in Astana, the second leg of his Central Asia tour, and today he holds summit talks there to promote broader partnership between South Korea and Kazakhstan. Meanwhile, an earthquake measuring 4.8 on the Richter scale hits Buan-gun County in Jeollabuk-do Province early on this Wednesday morning, prompting calls for caution. And after 18 months of mandatory military service, K-pop sensation BTS's eldest member Jin is officially back to mark the boy band's 11th birthday, which is tomorrow, that is June 13th. Pres.Yoon is currently in Kazakhstan to sit down with his counterpart there for extensive talks on bilateral projects. Our senior correspondent Oh Soo-young, who is part of the travelling press pool, files this report.
President Yoon will aim to strengthen South Korea's critical minerals supply chain as he pays a visit to Kazakhstan, the second stop of his state visits to 3 Central Asian countries. On Wednesday, President Yoon will hold a summit with President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, with their discussions expected to focus on sectors like energy, infrastructure and critical mineral supply chains, given Kazakhstan's abundance of mineral resources such as uranium, chrome and zinc. Such minerals are key components for South Korea's high-tech export items, such as semiconductors. But the resource-poor country lags behind other advanced economies, owning only 36 mineral mines compared to the United States' near 2,000 and Japan's 134, according to the Korea International Trade Association's analysis. Yoon will also aim to support Korean companies in securing projects in the energy sector in Central Asia's largest oil-producing country.
Korean companies have been involved in various sectors in Kazakhstan, including energy infrastructure and manufacturing. President Yoon's visit aims to deepen existing economic cooperation and broaden the scope to strategic areas, such as alternative energy, climate change response, and scientific and technological collaboration.
Following the summit, the 2 sides will ink deals at a signing ceremony and hold a joint press conference, followed by a state luncheon. After the official event, President Yoon will participate in the Korea-Kazakhstan Business Forum and deliver a keynote speech. Kazakhstan is South Korea's largest Central Asian partner, with the 2 nations having established a strategic partnership in 2009. Ahead of his state visit to Astana on Tuesday, President Yoon said in an interview with local media that he expects his visit to further enhance their ties based on their complementary industrial structures and the deep relationship of trust built through successful cases of cooperation. He added that Seoul will support Kazakhstan's efforts to ramp up its digital industry, especially in artificial intelligence, and promote further human and cultural exchanges, noting how 120,000 ethnic Koreans reside in Kazakhstan. Also, as Yoon promotes his regional initiative to deepen engagement with Central Asian countries, he lauded Kazakhstan's world-class example of denuclearization, as the country closed down its Soviet-era nuclear facility and voluntarily dismantled a large number of nuclear weapons after independence. Having launched South Korea's first ever regional strategy for Central Asia, President Yoon said the goal of his K-Silk Road initiative is for the 2 sides to grow together in innovation and companionship as they both seek to bolster freedom, peace and prosperity. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Astana.
Now, prior to his departure from Turkmenistan, President Yoon partook in a business forum where he called for an accelerated advancement in bilateral business initiatives. Our presidential correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
Cooperation in the energy and infrastructure sectors were emphasized yet again as South Korea and Turkmenistan on Tuesday held a business forum at Turkmenistan's Chamber of Commerce and Industry in light of President Yoon Suk-yeol's state visit. President Yoon, joined by 200 business leaders from the 2 countries and government officials, including Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedov, the chairman of the People's Council of Turkmenistan, referred to the Akar Teke, a Turkmen horse breed known for speed and endurance, intelligence, and a distinctive metallic sheen to speed up cooperation even further.
세계 4위 천연가스 보유국인 투르크메니스탄과 산업화 경험과 첨단 기술을 보유한 한국은 앞으로 함께 할 일이 참 많습니다. 투르크메니스탄의 명마 아할테게처럼 양국 경제 협력의 속도를 더욱 높여야 합니다.
He pointed to the Trade and Investment Promotion Framework signed the day before as the means to make this happen. On top of this, he said he wished to complete the signing of the Investment Protection Agreement, which will further provide the basis for companies to invest in each other safely. He also said how far the bilateral relationship has come is thanks to the business leaders who successfully completed projects that contributed to Turkmenistan's economy, including gas plants.
이처럼 양국이 한층 더 가까워진 토대에는 앞장서서 소통하고 긴밀하게 협력하며 실질적인 성과를 만들어내신 경제인 여러분의 노력이 있습니다. 양국 경제인 여러분께 다시 한번 큰 박수를 보내드립니다.
Chairman Berdi Muhammadov also emphasized the results of the summit from the day before and said the bilateral relationship will play a vital role for both countries going forward.
In recent years, cooperation between South Korea and Turkmenistan has reached an even higher level, particularly in the fields of politics, diplomacy, economy, culture, and humanitarian efforts. The relationship between the two countries has seen significant development and has gained new meaning.
The comments are backed by the fact that he contributed to the bilateral relationship when he was the president.
Supreme Leader Berdi Muhammadov, who visited South Korea 3 times during his tenure as president, made significant contributions to the development of bilateral relations, including the establishment of a mutually beneficial partnership in 2008. He is an important figure who has left a substantial legacy in the relationship between the two countries.
President Yoon last met with Berdi Muhammadov back in 2022 when he was visiting Seoul as well. And the two, after the forum, moved to have lunch together to discuss cooperation in more detail. 김도현, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, pundits believe the time is right for efforts to enhance strategic cooperation between South Korea and Central Asia, especially amid the current climate of geopolitical uncertainty. Our Park Gonu covers their thoughts.
South Korea aims to strengthen its economic cooperation with Central Asian countries that possess rich energy reserves and natural resources. Those countries include Turkmenistan, which has the world's 4th largest natural gas reserve, and Kazakhstan, which ranks 12th in the world for oil, according to a recent report by the Korea International Trade Association. And according to one expert, countries in Central Asia have even bigger potential.
They have abundant minerals including uranium, chromium, titanium, and more. Those countries also have a stable supply chain to export these resources. There are still lots of undiscovered resources in the Caspian Sea, and as the situation in the Middle East is unstable, we need a new stable source of crude oil, and Kazakhstan can be it.
The expert added that a growing population and GDP also make Central Asia attractive. Despite this, economic exchanges between South Korea and Central Asia have been comparatively small. According to a recent report by Kita, the value of imports from Central Asia to South Korea came to around $3.6 billion in 2023, down 25.3% on year. The total investment input to countries in Central Asia from Seoul from 1980 through 2023 was $3.8 billion. That's only about 2% of the total investments in the US during the same period. An expert gave his explanation as to why exchanges have been so limited.
First of all, geography is a barrier for us because we are not immediate neighbors. And second of all, I think geopolitics is not in our favor because Korea is divided and the Central Asian countries are landlocked and surrounded by countries which are sanctioned by the West.
And that's why President Yoon Suk-yeol is currently in Central Asia to strengthen economic relationships with countries there.
It's very important for leaders to come together, to be in the same room and to talk about agendas of both sides. For example, for Kazakhstan, it is very important to switch from resource-based development to a more value-added version of production, industrial, building industrial facilities, etc. Collaboration is the key for both sides to succeed in very important venture because we are living in a very difficult world.
Several MOUs that could bolster economic partnerships between Korean countries in Central Asia have already been signed during President Yoon's visit. Watchers will be focusing on whether South Korea can broaden economic cooperation even further, particularly for energy and natural resources. 박건우, Arirang News.
In other news, mounting animosity here on the Korean Peninsula amid North Korea's provocations have led to a rare public display of deterrence by South Korea's Navy. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung was on site.
South Korean forces and the 3,000-ton submarine Ahn Mu get ready to launch a torpedo attack against a hypothetical North Korean submarine, which is intruding on the de facto maritime border.
적 잠수함에 대한 어뢰 공격 준비.
어뢰 공격 준비. 1번 어뢰 발사 준비 끝.
좋아. 1번 어뢰 카운트다운으로 발사.
카운트다운 발사. 발사 5초 전. 4, 3, 2, 1. 발사.
South Korea's Navy conducted the training on Tuesday with the Ahn Mu in waters off the port city of Busan. The training involves striking an enemy submarine and ship with torpedoes, as well as ground-based enemy targets using submarine-launched ballistic missiles. The drill was aimed at enhancing detection and striking capabilities amid escalating threats from North Korea, especially with continued trash balloon deliveries and missile launches.
All crew members of the Ahn Mu are at the highest level of combat readiness. If the enemy provokes us, we will destroy and punish them underwater immediately, strongly, and until the end.
The Ahn Mu is a core asset of the South's kill chain preemptive strike system, a pillar of the three-axis defense system designed to deter North Korean attacks. It's armed with torpedoes, mines, and guided missiles, and equipped with vertical launching tubes for SLBMs to strike ground targets. The submarine also features the latest noise reduction technologies and uses an air-independent propulsion system that helps it survive longer underwater. It's the second of 3 Dosan Anchangho-class 3,000-ton submarines, which are capable of carrying 50 crew members. Tuesday's training with the Ahn Mu was the first to be open to the public, involving the Navy's 3,000-ton class submarine. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
An earthquake measuring 4.8 on the Richter scale hit Buan-gun County in Jeollabuk-do Province earlier on this Wednesday. The quake struck at 8:26 a.m. and was the biggest to hit the province thus far. Authorities add the quake had a depth of 8 kilometers and was also the biggest tremor to strike the nation since the earthquake in Pohang in 2017. Seoul's Interior Ministry has raised the nation's disaster control alarm to level 1, the first in its 3-stage alert system, while issuing the third highest earthquake alert. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo has urged ministries to remain alert with public safety at the forefront of all response measures. Likewise, President Yoon Suk-yeol, currently on a Central Asia tour, has called for a prompt damage assessment and a comprehensive safety check. Elsewhere, the World Bank has revised upward its growth projection for the world economy on prospects of steady U.S. market expansion. Our Kim Bo-kyung has details.
A rosier global growth outlook for this year. The World Bank has projected the global growth outlook for 2024 to be at 2.6%, expecting the global economy to stabilize for the first time in 3 years. This is an upgrade from its previous prediction of 2.4% made in January, and the agency further expects global growth to edge up to an average of 2.7% in 2025 and 2026.
We see after 3 years consecutive weakness in terms of growth, we will see stable growth this year. Growth is going to be around 2.6%, and in fact next year we are expecting a little bit of a pickup
After a long slump due to COVID-19, the global economy has been expanding steadily since 2021 as the world recovered from the impact of the pandemic. Yet the World Bank pointed out that global growth remains weak compared to past standards, as there had been an average of 3.1% annual growth in the decade before COVID-19. It is worth noting that the revised forecast also owes much to the growth in the U.S. economy, while prospects for the world's poorest nations are worrying. The agency forecasts the U.S. economy to expand 2.5% this year, the same as last year, but up sharply from bank's previous prediction of just 1.6% in January. Meanwhile, developing economies are projected to grow 4% on average this year, slightly slower than in 2023, with the World Bank highlighting their punishing levels of debt service and constricting trade possibilities. The World Bank, in fact, has downgraded its forecast in 3 out of 4 low-income economies since January. Global inflation is expected to drop to 3.5% this year and 2.9% in 2025. But with a slower than expected pace of decline, many central banks are forecast to remain cautious over lowering interest rates. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
On the local front, the labor market here appears to be cooling. Employment in May expanded at the slowest pace in well over 3 years. Our economics correspondent Moon Hae-ryun covers the latest findings.
South Korea's job market slowed in May with a national holiday affecting results. According to Statistics Korea on Wednesday, employment grew by just 80,000 people compared to the same month last year, with a total of 28.92 billion people in jobs. And despite the employment rate for 15 to 64-year-olds reaching an all-time high at 70%, that figure represents the lowest growth seen in over 3 years since February 2021. The agency attributed the decline to the fact that Buddha's birthday fell during the week of measurement this year, as the data is collected during the week in which the 15th falls every month. Buddha's birthday in South Korea is celebrating using the lunar calendar, so the date differs every year. This year, it happened to fall on the 15th. A spokesperson explained that other factors could have come into play behind this decline in job growth.
Following the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a high accumulation in the number of employed people, so this is continuing to act as a base effect.
The job market has seen fluctuations over the past few months, with over 300,000 more people in employment on year in January and February. There was a dip below the 200,000 mark in March before a recovery in April. Employment in the manufacturing sector has been booming due to an upturn in the semiconductor industry, with 38,000 more people hired on year. Other sectors that also saw an upswing were the food and hospitality sectors. However, the retail sector has been seeing a decline in employment for some time now, and last month was no exception, with a decline of 73,000 on year posted as the industry becomes more automated. With South Korea's aging population, the number of people in employment aged over 60 years old has continued to increase. 265,000 more people in that age group were in jobs in May this year compared to last year. But decline continued for those between 15 and 29 years old, as well as for those in their 40s. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
And on a light note now, the eldest member of K-pop boy band BTS Jin has completed his 18-month mandatory military service and was discharged earlier on this Wednesday morning. His bandmates taking leave for the day were on site to greet him, with RM playing their song Dynamite on the saxophone. Returning to civilian life, Jin will make his first public appearance on Thursday at the 2024 Festa at Chamshel Indoor Stadium here in Seoul, just in time for the 11th anniversary of BTS's debut. Now, Jin is the first of the 7 members of the band to complete his service. The next member expected to be discharged is J-Hope in October. On the football field, Team Korea beat China in its second round of regional preliminaries for the 2026 World Cup here on the home ground. Our Lee Seung-jae has the highlights.
Playing in front of a sold-out crowd at the Seoul World Cup Stadium on Tuesday night, the South Korean national football team faced off against China for their final match of the second round of the Asian qualification for the 2026 World Cup. South Korea had already clinched a spot in the third round, but needed a win to guarantee being one of the top 3 seeds in Asia to avoid facing Japan or Iran in the next round. Despite dominating China in possession, the match was scoreless after the first 45 minutes. However, just past the hour mark, PSG's Lee Kang-in ran onto a loose ball in the penalty area and fired a scorcher past the Chinese goalkeeper, giving South Korea the 1-0 lead and the win. Lee has scored 3 goals in the past 2 matches and 10 in his last 15 internationals. The win for South Korea means they'll remain the 3rd highest ranked Asian team in the FIFA rankings and avoid Japan and Iran in the 3rd round of qualification. Japan and Iran are currently 18th and 20th in the FIFA ranking, with South Korea coming into Tuesday's match ranked 23rd, but only marginally ahead of Australia in 24th place using FIFA's points-based ranking system. Tuesday night's win helps the Taeguk Warriors keep the 3rd highest ranking in Asia. The June FIFA rankings will be unveiled later this month and will determine the seeding for the 3rd round, where 18 qualifying teams from the 2nd round will be drawn into 3 groups of 6. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It has been a rough week with the burst of heat. Gangneung had another tropical night with even warmer overnight temperatures. Much of Korea is set to roast in seasonally heat, with temperatures to go up similar to yesterday, with more regions under heat advisories now. The chance of passing rain continues. Inland parts of southern provinces could see 5 to 20 millimeters of showers along with thunderstorms, but the rest of the country continues to be under blazing sunshine today. Meanwhile, Gyeongju had a high of 36 degrees yesterday, and today looks to be as hot as, topping out at 35 degrees. Seoul and Chuncheon will see a high of 31 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Strong UV rays and ozone levels are expected during the day, and the shade doesn't help much nowadays with higher humidity. But relief is on its way. Saturday's rain in the capital should bring slight relief, and next week should not be as bad as this week, so hang in there for a couple more days. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
And those are the headlines at this hour here in Korea. Coming up now is our daily panel session. Do stay with us.